Okay, then we can continue to make materials for other parts of our scene. First, make the materials of some relatively simple objects. First of all, we still have some floating ones on the tree, an effect similar to fog. Then we will also create some new materials first. As for its color, it is also a single color. That is to say, it is almost the same color as the small stripe above us. We can first delete its default material. We can use self-illumination or RGB colors here. They are all the default output colors. Then we can choose its color. There will be a small straw underneath. Let's just suck in the color. Okay, and then the remaining few little dots. We can just press Ctrl L to associate its material. In other words, the above materials. We want it to be the same color. There are two more below. Let's choose one to go to the top first. First, associate a material. So actually, I hope the color below can change a little bit. So its material needs to be disconnected. Then I can make it slightly greener here. Let's take a look. Put it aside. Otherwise, it will be blocked. Good. Now it will have a slightly greener feel. What about the other one? Let's make a connection with it. Then that's it. There are two more below. We can also associate one first. What about its color? I also hope it is copied. Then it's a little bit darker. The other one makes some connections with it. In addition, we will find below, we actually have some of the same little floating effects. We can also use the same method to do color. For example, there are some floating objects on our right side. West. We can select them and copy them out. Let's change its color to a blue color. Let's just change it casually now. Because where is the lawn below us? Actually, you haven't done it yet, right? So you just need to know that it is something like this. After finishing the lawn below, what will we do based on the color of the lawn? Then make the color on it. So now we will. Let's give it a current color. That's it. Let's not worry about it for now. Okay, what's next? Let's do the color of the moon. So what about the moon? It has to have two colors. One is light yellow on the side. The middle part has a slightly darker yellow feel. So how it works, and we do other colors. In fact, it's quite similar. So let's first put it Ctrl L. First associate its material. We can copy it. Then you can give it a name if you want. We call it the moon. Then we can give the color to the previous one on the side. A slightly lighter yellow color will do. Could also be a little brighter. Okay, then it actually has another yellow color inside. So what to do? We can make another one in the same yellow color, but a little deeper than that. Then put the noodles inside. Just assign a new material to it on a surface basis. So how should we operate it? Let's take a look. First, we can take a look at the Properties panel on the right. In the Properties panel, we find the last option. This is our material property. In fact, the material properties here are similar to the material properties we see now. It's just that it's displayed as an attribute list. So above you can see what we have now is the first one on the moon. Materials. Then on the right side of the attribute list, we can click a plus sign. Create a new, empty material slot for it. It doesn't have any material right now. Then you can click the new key here, or click the new key here. There will be a drop-down list in front of the new key button. Then what it displays here is all the materials that already exist in our scene. Of course, you can also choose from the same here. Then we select the moon again. Now our first material and second material are both called the moon. At the same time, you will also see that there is a 2 in front of it. Prove that these two moons are made of materials, right? It is given to our object. Then we can choose one of the moon materials and copy it. Become moon 0.001. So if this is the case, the parameters between the two materials are no longer related. We can take the color of the second moon. Let's make it a little darker. Then after dimming, let's make this a darker color. Use the face in this edit mode as an element. We hold down the Shift key. Select the noodles inside it. After choosing, we use the second material. Click this designated button. We can put the dark moon material, designated to the inside of our moon. It will have a small level. The color feels a little too dark. Let's adjust it a little bit. A little more green. The color doesn't need to be too dark either. Good. As long as the overall feeling is like this. I want it to be like this first. If we want to add it later. If there are other effects. When we get to post-rendering. Let's see again. According to the effects of some materials we have finished. Let's take a look at it slowly. Then there is our picture. Still a relatively simple material. This is what these grasses are made of. So stupid. We probably have two colors. One is light green. One is dark green. Let's start with it and create a new one. We can give it a name. It's called grass. Okay. Then we delete its default schematic BSDF. Just create a self-illuminating material for it. Specify it. Then the grass on our platform. It should be a brighter green. Right? Slightly brighter green. Okay. It's such a color. Let's make it a little more yellowish. A little bit purer. Then all the grass above. Its color is actually the same. Finally, choose the grass with texture. Just specify its effect. The other parts are actually the same as well. These two grasses. And the grass on our side. They should all be bright green. Us Control L. Just connect it. Good. So what about after finishing the light color one? Let's make it dark. What about dark colors? We also let it associate with the light colored material first. Then we can copy its material to it. Let's just change its color. We can make it a slightly darker green. Good. So let's take a look at the grass next to it. There are also a few small grasses near us. There are also a few grasses on the right side that we didn't make textures just now. We can just make it dark green. We create an association for it. Okay, the effect now is pretty good. We can make it a little bit darker. That's actually close to this color. Or similar. And the stem on top of our dandelion. Right? Or maybe it's the mirror of this flower. Then their color can also be this dark green. There's no problem either. Then let's make the material on the dandelion. So what about this dandelion? We want it to be 2 layers of color. In other words, there is a layer of color outside. There is a layer of color inside. So its color will be one more layer than other colors. How to do it? Let's first create a new material. Then we can delete one of its existing materials. Then we are here. You can first create a color gradient node. Then we create a layer weight node in the input. We will have 2 nodes in the layer weight. A man named Finial. One is called facing. Let's not worry about what it does for now. Let's first connect one of them to our color gradient. Then we output. After output, we can take a closer look. The effect it has now. Then its current effect is to use an algorithm of Finier. Then map our black and white directly on our model. We can adjust it to the middle. Make it a little more obvious. We can find Finier's algorithm. Actually, it's based on our perspective, produced by looking at one position of this model. A district rate. Then it will correspond to the color above us. That is to say, if the surface of our object is facing our line of sight, it will be darker. That's the black side. What if it turned to one side? Right? Just to the side of it. Then it will use the second color. Of course, you can also change it at will. Maybe you can see it more clearly. So, it is based on our sight, to a region on the surface of this object. To calculate, let's first change it to a green. It will look better. Then Chung Chuanzhong and this finer. The overall algorithm is almost the same. Nothing more. Fresnel calculates the area ratio of the curve. follow us to fulfill the image of the face inside the weight. Not the same. What about the facial expression? Its effect will be more obvious. What about the effect of finer? Will be less obvious. Right? We can just use the facial groove image here. Then we can add the previous color gradient node. Make it straight. Let's pull back a little bit. Now, it will have two colors, right? The outermost ring is our light green. So what about the middle place? It's our black. Then we are here. Actually, it's not about making it turn a light green color. Let's make it an off-white. Yes, slightly off-white. Or it can be a little bit green. Then the black part in the middle. We want it to be a light gray. Or a little bit brownish gray. It's such a feeling. Then it will look better. Will it look better? Okay, then after the effect comes out, I want to make a small modification now. That is to say, I want the black piece in the middle able to move down a little bit. It is now in the center of the screen. It's in the very center of this dandelion. So I want it to go down a little bit. Of course, if you are not willing to do the rest of the steps, just keep the current result. In fact, it is also possible. Then let's take a look. How can I make it move down a little bit? First, we select our multiplicative weight node. After selecting this node, we use a shortcut key. Then it's Ctrl+T. It will help us automatically connect the following three nodes. Then some students may choose to use the weight node Ctrl+T. The following three nodes will not appear. What if you didn't show up? Then we need to find the preferences in the Edit menu. In the preferences, we look for the plugin. In the plugin, we can search for node. Hook up this plugin. Enable it. Then many of our shortcut key operations rely on this plugin. Just enable it. Then you select your layer weight, again Ctrl+T. You can connect these three nodes. What about these three nodes? One of them is a yellow texture image. We don't need this. We directly connect the real quantity on the left to the normal image in layer weights. Then the image node below. We just select it and press X to delete it. So what are these two nodes used for? Rightmost, leftmost node. It is a texture coordinate. In fact, it allows us to make the texture in front or its normal direction. How to generate? For example, there is a way to generate normal mode, some methods such as UV method, etc. There are also object camera window reflections. Then we are here. I won't explain them in detail first, so you know it's our texture. A generated type for a normal. There will be a purple one in the middle. It's called hard color. That's so-called hard color. In fact, it can be adjusted. We generated it. Some positions of Dharma images. It can adjust the position, rotation lock, etc. Of course, our current default connection is. You will find that it has no effect. Even the ones we had inside. The dark effect is gone too. Let's take a look. Right? After connecting, the dark effect will disappear. The reason is the way it is generated. There are some problems now. We can set it to the default. UV connection changed to object. For objects, it refers to the origin of the object. Let's start counting. In other words, if we modify the origin of our object, if our GZ goes down, did you see it? You can influence this little gray ball in our center. So you can adjust it or... But where am I? I don't want to change the black area by adjusting the origin. The location of the gray area. Then let's look at the mapped nodes. It will have a Z value, right? X, Y, and Z. We are here. Here we change it to 0 first. We are here. In fact, I just need to change it. The position of its Z value is enough. Seems a bit big. 0.01, let's take a look. 0.05. I think 0.05 is okay, right? Or 0.0. A little smaller. 0.03 is also acceptable. Or 0. Let's make it 0.05. So this is equivalent to through this hardcore relationship. We moved its position downward by 0.05 meters. Its unit is meters. In this case, you will find the black one on our dandelion. The effect of the small center of the forest gray will move down a little bit. Then we can relate to all other dandelions. What we have done now. Control L lets associate the material. Then the results they get are the same effect. It will look like a small bubble. What we also need is an effect of this kind of small bubbles. Very good, right? Okay, so now our dandelion material is ready. What's next? We can also find some simpler materials. For example, the little flowers on our lawn. Right? Tweed. Actually, it is made of two materials. A bit like our moon. Just two colors. For example, the petals are white. The stamen in the middle may be red. Of course, you can also make it in other colors. Then let's create a new material first. Let's delete it. We just hope it has only one color here. So we use self-illumination. It is white now. So it is completely emitting a white light. I can make it a little bit more green. The yellow-green color is very, very elegant. The middle part of the stamen. Let's create a new shader. Then we click New. What about it? Can we use one or self-illumination? But I wish it was more orange. Or a little red feeling. Then what do I need to do with the second material? Designated for the little ball among us. So we go into its edit mode. Click on an empty space. Cancel a selection state for a model. Put your mouse on the little ball in the middle. Press the L key on the keypad. You can choose this little ball. Then select this orange material. Click this designated button. We can put this little ball in the middle to specify a color individually. In fact, in our picture, there are also some objects of the same color. Then let's copy it. For example, the bottom part of it. We also hope to have a. You can just copy it here. There are also some on the other side and the back. So this way, we will do it faster. Then another little flower. It's the same, but I want it to be a different color. So I can first associate it with a material in the small painting on the left. Pay attention. What about materials that are directly related to the past? Although the number of its materials has not changed, but we will find a problem. The location of its material seems not to be recognized. In other words, the red material. It did not correspondingly specify the middle color for me. But the number of materials has indeed been increased. So if some parts of the surface have other materials, we need to manually set it up. Then let's copy these 5 materials first. It controls the color of our flowers. Let's make it a little redder overall. Let's take a look. Then the stamens in the middle are from the bottom. Below it is also 5 now. Copy it. We just need to change the color of the stamens to a yellow color. Be careful to use yellow. Let's go directly to the small stamen part in the middle of it. Specify it. So if this is the case, we have already finished folding the colors of the 2 small flowers. Okay, then we still have to copy it. What about the right side? We also want it to be a little orange painting. Of course, we can also use small paintings in other colors. Everything is possible. Feel according to your own preference. Just make the material here. Okay, so what if this is the case? Let's put it into the scene. Some smaller materials. Just assign it. So what next class will you come back to? Let's add some other materials. Let's continue making it.